Hey everyone, and welcome back. What we're going to be talking about now is fill. Fill is another pretty cool property that is used sometimes when actually animating different types of elements, especially when you think about, changing a button color on a click or having like a hover, hovering over an interactive element. Let's actually use hover this time because we haven't used that yet. So we have our rectangle here, rectangle 5, what an awesome name. And we have rectangle 5 over here. And what we've actually done is we're going to be using gradients. So you should see that on the left, we have this gradient set, a linear gradient on the fill. So I have my design panel open once again, especially when I'm working on creating these differences. So let's take a look here. So we have our gradient, I can modify that gradient any which way I want by clicking that line. I can, bring that block even further up if I needed to, but I'm not going to do that. I can bring this white, etc. You can kind of define that any which way you like. Same thing for this rectangle over here. You'll notice it has a lighter gradient. So it does have the white that this one does, but the black is considerably grayer now. So we're going to see, a little bit of a scaled back look when it comes to color, less harsh than what we have here. So let's actually jump right into creating this prototype. So we're going to click prototype. We're going to go over here. We have our first screen on the left, and this is kind of where we're going to start. And, just so everyone doesn't get confused, you'll notice that this fill frame over here, it has a little icon right there. And what that means is it's just the thumbnail of the actual file. It's going to show you exactly, like that file is going to appear in your Figma drafts or within your Figma project with this image. So you can kind of set that if you want just by clicking a frame. If I use this one that doesn't have it, I can set that as thumbnail. And so this screen now will have that icon up there. So I just have it set as the thumbnail for now. Okay, so let's think about how we're going to animate this. We're going to click on the actual rectangle. We are going to drag to that screen. And now we're going to actually go and we're going to do while hovering. And that's all we're going to have to do. Because as soon as we hover off of this rectangle, it's going to go back to this darker gradient. So what we want to happen is when we hover, we're going to go to this frame over here. And when we get off of hover, we're going to go back. Kind of like if you're hovering over a button or hovering over like an input, you're basically simulating the same type of interaction over here. So we'll do that. We're going to keep it with Smart Animate. We're going to keep the same timing. I think that's totally fine. Let's take a look at what that looks like. We're going to press play. We got all our old flows right there. And here's fill. Okay. So remember what we did? We did hovering. So we're just going to kind of go over that. And as you can tell, we have our hover interaction, and that's pretty smooth, and hovering is pretty powerful when working on things like websites and you want to kind of show that cursor animation, like when somebody's about to hover over something. So super helpful for dictating how things should be working. And definitely when you're working with like developers, engineers, and other designers, you really want to kind of create these interactions when you're designing interactive elements, so that way they know how to implement it. But this is kind of how you use hover to kind of create this different fill experience. And you can do anything with hover. I can show you very quickly what happens if. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to, combine the two. So I'm going to create a new frame. I'm going to press F. I'm going to go to phone. I'm going to get that one, the 11 Pro, and I'm just going to drag it here. And I'll go back to my design tab. So as I zoom in, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click T for text. I'm going to open up text. I'm going to say hover. I'm going to go into my text styles here, and I'm just going to click auto width. So it's just going to, be centered, and the width of the actual text item won't be so large. We can change it to something like 18, so it's a little bit larger. So That's good. And what I like to do here is I'm just going to create a frame around it. So you can do this a couple of different ways. I'm just going to press F again, and I'm going to draw a frame. I'm going to take this frame here, and you can set the fill to whatever you like. We'll do any color like that. Up to you entirely. It's named frame. We'll just call it button. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this layer and place it inside the frame. So there we go. We have our button. And we're going to duplicate that. I'm holding down Option on MacBook to duplicate it. You can do it a couple different ways, actually. You can click that frame, Command C, Control C, and then duplicate it by pressing Command V or Control V, and it'll automatically create another frame. And then you can modify this button's background. So I'm going to make it a little bit dark. I'm going to actually make it black, and I'm actually going to make the text color that I have selected here white. So that's FFF. And I'll make the button actually a little bit bigger. So if I hold down Shift and make it larger, and I'm going to take this text and I'm going to center it in between like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this is centered to the actual artboard. So I'm going to click this up here in the alignment section. So it's centered both vertically and horizontally. Same with this one on the right. And then I'm going to create my interaction. This is how you can kind of connect the two. When I was talking about using both things like scale and fill. So this is an example of using something like scale and fill together. Click that button, create the interaction to the next screen, and you can click Smart Animate. Not on click, but we're going to do it on hover again. There we go. We have it while hovering. Let's take a quick look at what that looks like. So this is a new flow. So we're going to call it test. Let's go take a look at our prototype. So I'm just going to press play, and test is going to be over here already at the very bottom of my list. And you can see that now I've created a little hover interaction on a button. So that's kind of how you use fill, and also that's how you kind of start to, combining these things to create some pretty cool interactions. This one's a little bigger. I'm not sure if I would actually use something like this, maybe something a little bit more subtle, but this is kind of how you do it within Figma. And this is why Figma is pretty powerful when it comes to keeping your designs and your prototypes all together in one place. And this is it.